Welcome back to another Conversations with the Candidates. My name is Tammy Daniels, and we're here in the Northern Berkshire Community Television Studios. This is the fourth show that we have been doing with candidates for North Adams City Council for election 2023. And with me in the studio, I have incumbents Bryan Sapienza and Lisa Blackmer. Say hello.
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 And I'm going to give them a couple of minutes to reintroduce themselves to the voters, and then we'll have a conversation and ask them questions. And so I'm going to let Lisa go first.
Thank you. Thank you, Tammy and iBerkshires and Peter and BCTC for hosting us this evening, and to Bryan and the rest of my colleagues who put themselves on the ballot and put themselves out there. My name is Lisa Blackmer, and I'm running for City Council. Currently, I serve as the president of the council. I'm a Berkshire native and a 37-year resident of the city. My husband, Bill, a retired state police lieutenant and Northern Berkshire station commander, and I raised our children in this city. In addition to being a counselor, I'm a school business administrator, a wife, a mother, a grandmother, one of my favorites, a sister. I'm a Girl Scout, a volunteer, and an MCLA alum, times two. I have a master's certificate in local government, leadership, and management from Suffolk University, a bachelor's of science and master's in business administration from MCLA, and I'm a certified public procurement official, a licensed school business administrator, and I'm a graduate of the Berkshire Leadership Program. I have served on the council for 14 years, serving with 4 mayors and on all council committees, and I'm currently an appointee to the school business committee. Building committee, sorry, business is in my brain too much. I've worked in municipal government since 2013 as a town administrator, treasurer and collector, and now as a school business administrator. That work includes budgeting, grant writing, compliance reporting, human resources, advocating, and so much more. I'm the past president of the Mass Municipal Association, a statewide voice in Boston, representing all 351 cities and towns. And I'm currently the vice president of the Mass Municipal Councilors Association. I sat on the MMA's policy committee for regional and municipal administration, where we addressed issues such as Veterans Affairs, medical and recreational marijuana, zoning, public records law, and just a bunch more. I currently serve on the Fiscal Policy Committee, where we fight for increasing in local government aid and fight against unfunded mandates. I have spoken at the state level on behalf of cities and towns, advocating for regional equity for our small cities and towns in Western Mass. I was successful in bringing a voice for us, particularly regarding Chapter 90 road money and Chapter 70 school money. I'm running for the North Adams City Council because I want to continue to use my experience, education, and enthusiasm to work with the other council members, the mayor, staff, and state officials to continue to move our city forward.
All right, thank you. And Bryan.
Okay, I'm Bryan Sapienza, city councilor here in North Adams. I've served for about 2.5 years. I'm seeking a second full term of on the council. My background, I'm a native of North Adams. I've lived in both here, Arizona, and the state of Florida. Presently, I'm the parts manager at KM Motors up in West Main Street here in North Adams. I have a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration. I have an associate's degree in engineering technology from Berkshire Community College. My bachelor's degree is from here at MCLA. I enjoy serving on the council. I feel it's a great honor to be a part of this group and my colleagues, Lisa and others on the council. I wish to be reelected this year and continue to serve the fine people here in the city of North Adams.
Thank you. And Bryan, is this going to be your third term you're going for?
This is going to be my second full term.
Right.
Right. I was appointed back in 2021 when then Council President Paul Hopkins resigned. I was appointed in June of 2021. Yes.
And so what made you want to run again? What have you taken away from the last couple of terms that makes you want to continue on the council?
I enjoy serving the people of the city of North Adams. I like listening to the people, visiting with them, being part of what happens in the community. I'm very community oriented, and I feel it's a way of me giving back to the city that has given me a lot over the last many years.
And Lisa, which term is it for you now? I meant to double check because you were off for one term and then
So
came back
I had
on.
5 terms, 10 years, then I stepped back a term, and then I've had 2 more terms. So I've served 14, so this will be my 8th term.
Why do you keep coming back?
Some days I don't know. I keep coming back because I feel like I have an impact. I take things seriously. I do my research. I talk to the people in the public. I talk to professionals. I reach out to other elected officials and non-elected government officials across the state. I have a network of people that are really helpful in helping me understand things that I might not understand as much about. And I just think that I still have something to give back. And I started, I was a band parent and a little league booster and a football mom, and I did all that. And once my kids were gone, I was still involved. I volunteered for the food festival and with the tourism office and just a lot of other things. And I felt like when I got involved, this was the next step. So I feel like I can have an impact. I feel like I also, we're some newer people on, and obviously we're going to be filling. There are 6 incumbents running, so there will be 3 new people, and
At minimum?
at minimum, right? So that brings it. I think I bring some longevity, parliamentary, state law background, and can be a mentor and advisor slash. I know where to look for resources. If I don't, I find people who can help me find them.
The last term there has been a lot of work done over the last term. What in particular to you stands out over the last 2 years that you think the council had done well at? And I'm going to let Bryan have that one to go, because I think I know what he's going to say.
Well, yes, one of the things that I've been working on, and it's still a work in progress, and I think we're very close, is the updating of the taxi ordinances. The taxi ordinances haven't been updated in quite a while, and with recent issues with one of the local cab companies, we felt that it was time to upgrade and update our language in the ordinances. There were language changes. We no longer have a Department of Public Safety, but we do have a police department and we have a police chief. So things like that were changed, and along with that, some of the other things that we've accomplished, of course, I'm not going to take credit for this, but the short-term rental ordinance, which was a long time coming, that was very important to get that squared away. And just to take on some of the smaller issues that have come up over the course of the last term.
Lisa,
I would say that the council committees have been very, very active compared to, I'd say, my first 4 to 6 years on, and compared to now. I think part of it is the nature of some of the people who've gotten on. They kind of policy and structure, and they want to change things. I think the changing society has changed how we approach things. The leadership at the administration, like I said, I've served with 4 mayors in the past however many years we've decided, and I think we've been much more proactive instead of always reacting. Although some of our because it's so expensive and timely, when we change ordinances, we have to publish them. And sometimes they get published more than once because we find things. We have to consult with the solicitor to make sure they're right. It's a lot of work. Councilor Sapienza in particular has put in a lot of work on this taxi ordinance, which I think when we first talked about it, we didn't think it would require as many meetings. But historically, we haven't done that kind of work in ordinances other than adding new. Like, I was part of the youth commission, creating the youth commission ordinance back when Mick Boland and Gail Caridi were on the council. and I was part of the Arts Commission, which Councilor Sapienza has been part of. So those were like totally new ordinances, and obviously changing levels in the national and state brought on the short-term rental issue, which I was talking about in 2013 when I first got involved in local government, working in another capacity in another community. And it's taken us a while. There's been incarnations. We were hoping the state would step up and do something. The state, kind of all they really worried about was collecting the taxes and not really much else. And so that kind of left us with, how are we going to proceed? And so I think that's been important. I think we've been more engaged in the budget than we were historically. And we've had, Mayor Alkenbright was there for 8 years, then Mayor Bernard was there for 4. And although Mayor Maxey has done the wonking prep side of the budget, this was her, first 2 years as mayor, but they were all engaged and they all answered our questions and listened to our comments. And that was all in the middle of, COVID and everything else going on. So I do think we've just been a much more active committee council than in the last 4-6 years than we were
Prior
20
to
years
that.
ago.
Oh, yeah. You agree with that, Brian?
Yes, I think we were much more active in the in this term than we have in the past. I enjoy the committee work. I'm on public safety. I'm also on the finance committee. We had a very well presented budget the last couple of years. Everything was well explained, and things were explained even before we had opportunities to ask the questions on many topics. And I found it very, very cohesive. The Public Safety Committee, we've worked well together. We have come up with a lot of ideas. The work that we've done with the taxi ordinance is not that of my own, but it's of my 2 colleagues that are on there, Councilor Obasahan and Councilor Harpin. Both have been very instrumental on their help with the committee. And I think just the cohesiveness, I think we have grown a little bit closer as a group, and we know each other better, and we can work together. We know each other's strengths and weaknesses, and I think we are just
There was a lot of discussion in the prior term about toxicness and people not being able to get along. Do you feel that it has been a more productive, even if everybody doesn't completely agree with each other? I mean, you don't have to agree with people to be, productive, but do you think it's been better over this last term?
I think so. I think things have improved greatly. There's less supposed toxicity that there supposedly was before, but I think things are a lot more cohesive, and we seem to. You're not going to agree 100% with everybody.
Right.
That's human nature. We're not going to agree 100%, and if somebody doesn't agree with you, it's not the end of the world. You say, okay, well, let's see what else we can do. Is there a compromise, or should I back up and try another approach?
So, and this is a question I was going to ask. Speaking that, and I've said this to people who are first time running for council, is like, how do you may want to do something, but you have to have at least 4 other people agree with you to push anything through. So what would be your advice to any of these new councilors who will be coming on to the council?
I think my opinion would be to listen to the people and what the people have to say. Look at the issues, look at what needs to be done, and listen to the people that are putting us here in the office, because they're the ones that we are serving. And to really accomplish anything, I think that's where you need to be, is you need to listen to the people. What do they need? Do we need housing? We need jobs. We need better roads, better transportation. We need all these types of things. It's great to get on there and say, hey, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And at the end of 2 years, you're frustrated because you haven't been able to accomplish it. But I think if you listen to the people and you're able to help meet their needs or come closer to meeting their needs, I think you're going to feel a lot more satisfied than you are if you come in with some type of an agenda or some type of purpose and try to change the world for for whatever reason.
So Lisa, what would your advice be to?
Well,
the
I think
counselors?
that, I think Counselor Sapienza brings up a good point. Listen to the people, the public. Usually in my case, they hit me up in the supermarket. But do your homework. Sometimes people have a knack for kind of listening to the last person who got their ear. And sometimes I've seen it happen on the council floor where people bring up these ideas that aren't legal. So if somebody comes to you with an idea, do some homework. Look at other cities and towns, look at the state, look at the AG's office. Make sure that what they want to propose is what is legal. But the other thing is, sometimes you have to understand where they're coming from and what informs their decision. Sometimes they'll come in and ask you about something, but you have to get the story behind it because they might be asking for X, but in reality, Y would help them. I always ask, well, what do you mean by that? Because we sometimes speak a different language in municipal work or in different things. I know a lot of people will run for council and say, well, I'm going to fix the schools. Well, then maybe you should run for school committee. Or I'm really concerned about regional transportation. And then that's a legislative thing. Sometimes they want to change things in the administration, and I'm like, well, that's either work in public service in administration or run for mayor or move to a small town and run for select board. So I think sometimes I try to understand the motivation when somebody says to me, you're raising my taxes. And then I had conversations. I'll look something up. Well, so-and-so's house is here. Well, in my past life as a treasurer tax collector, I worked with the assessor's office. So I could literally look up the property card from that person and the person they were complaining about. And I could look at this and that and then they'll say, well, they're only paying this much. And what was happening is somebody's looking at their quarterly tax bill as opposed to their yearly tax bill. They're comparing apples and oranges. So I always ask follow-up questions. And then I guess that's it. And reach out to other people. If you're unsure, I've had counselors say, well, somebody approached me about this, but where do I go? Particularly when you're new. I would also suggest, and when people are elected, that they attend the Mass Municipal Association's New Counselors Day, which will be held on the 9th of December. I find it very helpful. I've been engaged since we started this program in 2017. And I think that's a good way to start. Read your paperwork, go over, also attend the MMA's annual meeting. There's a lot of workshops, and you get to talk to your peers. You get to meet your peers from across the state. Because the other thing is, why reinvent the wheel if you don't have to? Look what somebody else did first. So that's, I guess, my advice.
So I'm going to go back around to taxes since you brought them up. Let's talk taxes. We know last year there was a lot of controversy around the compromise that the council made, and there's few things that the council can do to affect these things, and that was one, is setting that split tax rate and what the shift was going to be towards the commercial end. And the mayor had wanted to pull it all the way back. But over the years, the council had been pushing forward to sort of relieve the businesses. And there was a lot of outcry that, the council, and I've seen this on Facebook, this council raised our taxes, all the taxes, and to be clear, all the taxes were going to go up anyways. It was just how much the taxes were going to go up. So Bryan, how do you explain to people on how taxes work, and what is going to be your take this year when that tax classification hearing comes up? Are you going to try to keep it the same, or do you think they should move more towards residential again? Or
I
put me on the spot on that one.
Okay, I have kind of split feelings on it because I think we need to respect the fact that the residents are struggling. A lot of our local residents are struggling. A lot of them are elderly. They're having trouble paying their taxes. And I hesitate shifting too much on the residents as opposed to taking it from the business. And unfortunately, it's a tough balance. It really is a tough balance. And I know last year on the finance committee, we did a split decision with splitting it down the middle to try to hopefully satisfy both groups. I believe, if you can find an equilibrium, that's where you set. And I believe in balance. And I know some of the businesses were a little upset. The thing is that we don't want to burden the businesses because a lot of the businesses are struggling as well. It would be ideal to have a single tax rate. Whether or not we can accomplish that in the next term or so, but I think it was tough. I mean, you had business owners, you had residents at these meetings expressing their opinions, and you're trying to satisfy both groups at the same time. And I think that the best way to do that was with a compromise. Raise a little bit on the residential and cut a little bit on the commercial, so that it was better than having everything all on one side and not the other to balance it out, so.
Lisa?
If we had a single tax rate, the residential property taxes would be through the roof. So we do, so it's a residential tax rate. A single rate doesn't work. I see a lot of small towns say, well, why can't we have a split tax rate? And it's because you have 3 businesses, it won't have an impact. I know that I was part of proposing that compromise. And I also think what happens is, one, businesses are owned by sometimes local people, sometimes not. And I know when everybody talks about, yeah, well, who cares if we raise the taxes on Walmart? Yeah, okay, I agree. But that also means that we're raising taxes on the mom and pop shop, on the corner market, on the local restaurant, on all of whom employs local people. So I think you have to find a balance. And I think it's about having a bigger pie. And like you said, the taxes went up. It wasn't the difference between what they would have gone up compared to what they did go up was not a large amount, because you're comparing. I know that we've worked for years to move the balance so so we were leaving some of the business rates. The other thing is, I know people talk about, oh, our tax rate is high. And when you really want to look at it, you need to look at the average tax bill, because and they talk about income. So we have low income, we have one of the lowest per capita incomes in the state. But we also have one of the lowest tax bills. And then when you look at some of these other communities that have really low tax bills, locally, Hancock and Rowe, they have, Jiminy Peak and that whole complex owns a ton of the land and business and space in Hancock, and that keeps it low. In Rowe, you've got the power plants. They've got a huge commercial they pay the taxes. They have the 8th lowest tax rate in the state. So I think you really have to look at your average tax bill. I also know that we have to pay for services, and we also have I know that every time we give someone a raise or we increase the C&C plan, everybody gets all upset, but we have some of the lowest paid employees in the area and in the state, and we've lost good people who have gone to other smaller communities and made more money. So we're losing the institutional memory, we're losing qualifications, and particularly in municipal finance, there's not a big pool of people to hire from. It's a challenge not just here, it's a challenge across the state. So I think we have to think of it as a budget. What are the services we need? Health insurance costs keep going up, contractual salaries keep going up, the cost of products, everything, whether it's paper and toner, to road salt, to pavement, everything's going up. And then you also have the supply chain issues we've had. So it's a balance, and we have a budget, and we try and live within our means, and we've been getting money through the schools and through some of the other, and through ARPA, but sooner or later that money's going to go away, and we really need to look at what services we need in the city. And we need a full-time police department. We need a full-time fire department. We have fewer people working for the DPW than we had 20, 30 years ago. And we had the same miles of roads. We haven't added any land or decreased the road thing. And what we have added to that department is a lot of parks. and that takes maintenance. So we're trying to do more with less, and it's not like when you maybe automize some of the financial offices and some of the offices where maybe you automize enough that you don't need that halftime person or another person. But roads are roads, and it still takes an X amount of hours of plow time to do it. So it's a balance, and I think we have to look at the actual tax bill, and when we talk about our tax rate might be higher, our tax bills are a lot lower than a lot of, and including the surrounding communities.
And speaking of that too, there are some large projects looming on the horizon, including the vote this week to put forward, it's not written in stone yet, put forward to the MSBA preferred option of a new school at Greylock, which is estimated right now at $61 million. And that is less than the 75 they were talking about, but still pretty significant. And we still need a public safety building. And the mayor actually made a comment at school committee, I think school building needs committee, about 10 roofs that have to be done on public buildings. So there's a lot of public buildings. So what is going to be the role of the council in looking at some of these huge projects that are coming down the line? And what do you think the city should do with some of this property that it has? Bryan.
I think that we need to look at the priorities and the severity of the of the issue. You have a roof leaking. You have kids in the school building. You need to look at the severity of the problem, and you need to prioritize what we can do with what we have. In other words, balance the amount of funds that we have with the projects that we can do. Give the attention to the most urgent projects. Like I said, if you have leaking roofs, you have school children involved, you don't want to subject school children to a building that is dangerous. You don't want to subject, you really don't want to subject any of our municipal employees to unsafe conditions, considering the former police department was in very poor shape. Our fire department is still in fairly poor shape. And these are the people that protect us, protect our city. They protect our homes, our businesses, our lives. And we need to put them in a building that's going to serve their needs, and it's going to make them more comfortable to, be able to work and make it easier for them to serve those purposes, and to be able to prioritize these projects. We need to just, and I think the council will play a role in.
So what would convince you when the mayor cuts, because there will be a vote probably next August, depending on everything goes through the MSBA, so there will be a vote to authorize boring late next summer. What will convince you to vote for the school? What will the mayor have to bring to you to convince you to vote for that project?
I think that she would have to bring a sense of urgency, how urgent it is and how important it is to get that school say it's the Greylock School or wherever. I think that she would have to bring the fact that how are you going to pay for the money that we need to pay for part of it? I mean, part of it's going to be funded, and the other part the city's going to come up with. I mean, no investment is too small when it comes to our children. And I think that if we have a good, sound building to educate our students in, I think that is a priority. I personally would not have any issue voting for it. I feel that it would be a better option than putting the money into a building that may not be totally functional. And I think having a new Greylock school would be a much better option, more functional than, say, trying to repurpose a building that is not serving the needs right now.
Lisa, what would your take on it?
What was my take on it? So for starters, the difference between a new Greylock and a refurbished Greylock, which was the other least expensive, is less than $2 million. It's about $1.7 million. Yeah, that's a lot of money. Now, we are going to be reimbursed 75 to 80% is probably is the range that they're looking, but I know some other projects have been actually over 80%. So what'll happen is we will decide on a project, we authorize the borrowing. What we will do is we'll have a bond anticipation note. We will borrow money as needed to pay for the repair, to pay for the construction over a period of, a couple of years. Once we have the final numbers, we've spent all the money, MSBA will reimburse us what their share is, which will hopefully be 80+%, which means that we will be looking at, in my head, math is like $15 million, but that's $15 million over a 30-year loan. So that also, that 1.7 million that we talk about in the difference, you got to take 80% of that and divide that by 30 years. So also, I've been hearing about Greylock and the problems at Greylock since the late 90s. So we're talking 25 years here. We need to have a 21st century education facilities. And the things that are going to happen with some of the greening of the building and the technology that's out there that probably wasn't even available when we built Crow Grove is going to help. The MSBA, there's money from the federal government. I was just on a webinar today, which I couldn't get my head around a lot of it because it was very technical in as far as, but they were talking about ways to reduce greenhouse gases and non-carbon and all these other things, and there's money there. So it's possible that some of those monies could be used to also offset our share of the cost, and there were numbers and projects. So I think that's my attitude on the school building. Again, so we're looking at 2025, I think we'll start building, take a year or two by the time we borrow, and then spread that out over 30 years. So that'll make a difference. The public safety building, and again, we have spent 30 plus years not investing in our infrastructure. I know we've tried to use some of the ARPA money for sewer and water, which I think is a priority. We have to really fix it. I mean, they dug up pipes that were wood.
Yeah.
A wooden pipe to me is an oxymoron.
Yeah.
And the public safety building I've been fighting for that forever. The state is looking at a program that will work similar to the MSBA there's two versions of the bill. One is for all municipal buildings and one is for just public safety buildings. So it would do the same thing. We'd have a project, we'd get reimbursed. They're looking for a funding source for that, and also they're trying to figure out where the economy's going. But I think that's going to be, and I think honestly, since we are, and I've made this case to everybody I've talked to, since we are under consent decree with the federal government, we should move to the top of the list, considering the issues that we've had. Also, we need the governor to release the $1.2 million that she promised the mayor and I back last summer when she was here campaigning. She would release that money, and she needs to release that so we can do our study, we can do our plans, and we can be shovel ready, because there's federal money out there to do this, but if you're not shovel ready, you can't get it.
Okay. All right, we're running out of time, so I'm going to let you go quick. Give a little stump about voting for you, or bring up something else that you think people need to know. I'll give you a minute.
Okay. Well, I've enjoyed my 2.5 years on the city council. I would appreciate a vote. I look forward to serving the people. I enjoy serving the people. I feel honored and proud to have been selected to do this job. And it is a very rewarding job. I haven't had any frustrating moments. It's always been a satisfying thing to get out, meet the people, talk to the people, and try to help them whatever way I can. So I do ask for your vote on November 7th. Thank you.
Lisa.
So I want to thank you again all for doing this. I want to thank you for this engaging conversation. I do want to reiterate that I have the experience, education, and enthusiasm. I have a vision for the future and the experience to make it happen. I would like your vote. The deadline to register to vote is 10/28, so make sure you do that. I ask for your vote either during early voting or on Election Day on November 7th. Polls are open 7 a.m. You can vote before you go to work so that I can continue to work for all of you.
Okay, and thank you. And that's it for this version of, excuse me, Conversation with the Candidates. I think I misspoke and said it was the 5th. This is actually the 4th. And when you go to the polls on November 7th, remember there will be 11 names on the ballot. Vote for up to 9. Don't forget to vote. Polls open at 7 a.m. and close at 7 p.m. that day. And I want to thank Northern Berkshire Community Television for hosting us here. And I'm Tammy Daniels from iBerkshires.com, and we'll see you on the next Conversations with the Candidates.